What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Tell Me More podcast presented by Major League Success. I have Darcie Barton with me. Darcie, thanks so much for coming on. But Darcie's with the LDR group at Keller Williams Capital Partners here in Worthington, right? The Worthington office?
That's right. Yep.
I'm so excited to have you on, Darcie. We've got connected, over the last year? I mean, obviously, I've known the name.
Yep.
Known the name, but
Thank you.
really had the opportunity to just connect with you a little bit more, get to know you a little bit more through Clubhouse and our Central Ohio real estate group. And I'm excited to have you on because I know surface level, right, a little bit about you, but now we're kind of gonna get into just talking about your real estate. Yeah, the nitty gritty, the getting into the weeds of you becoming a real estate agent in your journey. So Darcie, I always like to start growing up. What was life like? Kind of lead me on the path, up until high school, that part of your life.
So born and raised here. Mom was a school teacher in Hilliard schools. My dad was a traveling salesperson. I was an average kid from an average neighborhood, and only child. So I went to Hilliard for a while and was not a bad kid. Played soccer growing up. Got in trouble for drinking. So my parents said, well, we're not Catholic, but you're going to a Catholic school. And yeah, so in high school, into my freshman year, I was shipped off to Bishop Watterson, had a blast, made great connections, great lifelong friends. And then they said, okay, well, we kind of made a mistake because they drink on Sundays. So you really don't send a kid that gets in trouble for drinking to a Catholic school. But hence the pattern. So I went back and I graduated from Hilliard, and I was an art major. I took all the classes that could be given. Was probably one of the first to get a full ride to Ohio Northern on a ceramic scholarship. So I threw pottery, and it was a part-time job for me. Sold a lot of installations through high school and got a full ride right out of the get-go, and was playing powder puff football, drunk, and had an emergency surgery done to my left shoulder and lost my scholarship. So coming out of high school, I was completely lost because my path was set for years. And so
all this happened in your high school years?
That was all high school. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
A little crazy how that went, but so then coming out, going into college, I mean, I started at Ohio State, and I made it. I don't even think I got a semester in. Because I had lost that drive, and I am one of those people. Unless it's passion related, there's no drive. Then it's just a job.
Curious, what made you? Was it because of the scholarship going away? It's almost like that was like your ticket, to doing that. Okay.
That's the only thing I kind of set the plan for, and didn't put that plan A, plan B together. I was a dumb kid. I mean, I showed up to school. I had decent grades. I didn't have great grades. I was that B- C student.
No, we get along just well then.
Yeah, exactly. And I would always just ride the line, safe, but never did anything. When that happened, the whole plan had thrown off. So there wasn't the drive there anymore. So then I was just kind of that lost kid, and I was told you got to go to college. So I did. Grades were terrible. I wasn't not a bright kid. Just there was no passion towards making that a priority. So I could not. So grades are terrible. Parents are like, we're not paying for this anymore. You're going to need to go out and get a job. So I did two things. I started selling cars, but that was very hard to do at the time. And so I was doing that a little bit of part-time, and then I became a bartender. I was on campus as a bartender, and then I was at a place called the Golden 8 Ball, which was on High Street, and it's no longer there anymore. The building's still there, but it some of the best pool players in the Central Ohio area played out of there.
Oh, wow.
And got to learn by some of the best. And then I'm like, you know what? This car sales thing hasn't taken off yet. You know, no one will take me serious. I am a woman. That wasn't so much the gig. I'm going to go be a professional pool player. And I made it on the road for 36 days.
Wow.
I didn't die, but that was no place for, I'll tell you, I lost a lot of money for a lot of years to become a very good pool player. And I ended up going professional for a while.
Did that replace the passion that you had for pottery? Is that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Only because so one of the best things for me and how my brain works is I love when people don't expect anything out of me. And that's when I perform the best. And where I had fun with playing pool was because I was considered the underdog. I mean, a lot of these guys would say, hey, Darcie, you want to team up with us, but you're going to have to play the drunk girl. I'm like, well, I don't have to play that. I'm great at that. So that's what I ended up doing. And there was a place called, geez, I don't even know if it's there anymore. It was out in Reynoldsburg, Pickerington area, but it was called It was the only 24-hour pool hall in Central Ohio. Corn-fed Reds, I think that's what it was. I don't think it's there anymore. My eyes have gotten so bad. I'm terrible at pool again. But there for a while, I mean, I got great practice in, and I actually started making money. There for a while, I was paying my rent. I was living in the short north and paid my rent and then finally my dad said, okay, like you've gone off the rails long enough. You've tested the wills. Now you got to be responsible and get a decent job. So before I did that, I went 36 days on the road, went with a professional tour ticket, and like that was like, it was cool. I did it. I say that I accomplished that, but then I went into car sales full time. Worked at Acura Columbus for eight years. I was at MK Honda. I was at Kelly BMW, and then Midwestern Auto Group. So sold, I would say Acuras for the majority of the time, but then focused on BMWs and sold those. And really, that's when I started to learn, okay, how does this work with people? What do people want to know? And that's where the people skills and all of that kind of came in. And I saw some crazy things. People act very interesting around money and automobiles. And, if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere was kind of my motto. So about 16 years doing that.
Were you doing the car sales while still doing the pool, or did you kind of give it up?
So part-time, and then when pool, I had an opportunity to take it on the road and go from there. So I gave up that temporary sales job at the time because I couldn't get the hours.
What made you want to go back into it? Because you said it was a little bit of a challenge, in the beginning.
My dad yelled at me. My dad yelled at me. Like, come on, grow up. Okay. That's a hobby.
Yeah. So you get back into car sales and you're doing it 16 years?
Yeah. So I sold on the floor for 16 years. And then right after, I guess it was right after 2001, I was dating a guy and he got relocated to Texas. And I just wasn't ready to move yet. We weren't there. And we kept a long distance relationship going for about a year. And finally one day I was looking for an apartment, and and I'd hit an echelon of, I had to have a roommate at that point because I was single, and I was at a price point. My roommate wasn't at that price point, and I was frustrated because we could not find a place that we would both be happy in.
Yeah.
He's like, why don't you just come and move to Texas? And it just, okay, why not? Let's go move to Texas. And that's what I did. So sold our condo at that point. We were renting a condo. So rode that lease out and got a Ryder truck and packed up my dog. And he actually sold his motorcycle to pay for the move. And
oh, wow.
Yeah, it was like this do or die. And, but I'm an only child. So my parents were like, oh, you're going without being engaged or anything. Oh, it was one of those.
Yeah.
All right. Still the rebel. So we ended up, I ended up moving, and 10 months later got married, and then 10 months to the day had my first child, and 18 months after that I had my son. So
there you go.
Everything was all just bam, bam, bam.
Yeah. You said that was 2001 when you moved out to Texas?
It actually moved at the end of 2002, got married in 2003. Had both kids by 2006, and then I get this opportunity. One of the mob groups I was in, the lady found out obviously I had car experience, so she contacted me with her husband, and he was like, listen, I'm looking for a wholesale manager. Would you want to do this? You could do it from home. And I said, yeah, why not? And so, I've got 2 little kids, and I ended up just saying, all right, well, we'll go with this. So I was like a fleet manager for a budget rent-a-car. And I would wholesale cars when they would come due and sell them off to the dealers. And we did that for about 6-8 months. And I just asked a question one day, and I said, when you need to buy new cars for the fleet, what do you do? And he's like, we've got reserves, about $3 million that, we've got a floor plan that we can buy them. You've got $3 million sitting there. Why aren't we making money off that? He's like, well, what are you thinking? I said, let's start buying these cars and like selling off the good cars along with the, end of lease beat up rental cars. Let's start selling good cars. We can buy them in volume. So he made me a deal, and he said, listen, if you pre-sell them, you can buy them off the market line, and as long as they're pre-sold, you can bring transport haulers in. Long story short, that went on for about 4 years, and I had 10 car haulers pulling off the auctions that we would buy, and I probably have 6 to 8 of these car haulers with 10 cars a piece on them coming in from Central and South Florida, Nevada, Vegas, and then North, Central, and Southern California.
So you lined up buyers for these before you guys ever even purchased them.
Correct.
So awesome.
Correct. Yeah, it was awesome. And so it's kind of funny coming from that industry and kind of feeling like I kind of created that myself at the time. And
yeah,
and I made a deal with them. Every car was anywhere from $300 to $500 a car that I would just get paid. And I'm making, all of a sudden, I'm making 10, 20 grand a month. And I had to put my kids in daycare. Like, we weren't prepared for this. Like, it just was this runaway train. And so I was kind of a day trader during the day. I just watched Manheim, and towards the season change. So I focused a lot on seasonal areas where, 50,000 minivans were dropping off in Vegas or South Central Florida. A lot of those, because they were coming off of rental cars, but they were the nice rental areas. And when they would throw 50,000 of those Grand Caravans, they'd plummet in price.
Right.
So for me to pick them up was dirt cheap. Had to pay for the hauler, But down here where I lived, and I lived literally 30 minutes from the border of Texas and Mexico, they couldn't get cars down here because we were the end of the earth.
Right.
So
right.
I could sell them for a premium price, and it was kind of this untapped market at the time. We kind of rode the wave for about 4.5 years doing that. It was cool.
That's awesome.
Fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. Kind of lead me up to getting into real estate. When did you kind of make that decision and timeframes and?
Yep, I remember the day. Alan Greenspan was on Fox News, and I would have it. So, because I'd usually run 2 or 3 phones at a time, and I've got Fox News in the background. Alan Greenspan says we are in a full-fledged recession, and literally, it was like Jerry Maguire. All the lights just went dead. They're not stocking cars for inventory on their lots. The last thing they want to do is talk to me. And literally within an hour, my business was gone. Everything I created was gone.
That's so wild.
It was crazy. And it was one of those things that after a month of that, my husband said, well, we've now come accustomed to this lifestyle, and we're going to be living in a paper bag if you don't figure out something. And he was bugging me for forever. Go get your real estate license. You would be so good at that. Like, but one home. I don't know anything about it.
Yeah. And
he was like, you'll learn it. You'll pick it up, or you get sued, and then you won't do it anymore. But you got to try. You got to try. So he was my biggest advocate. I ended up and I said, okay, well, it's 2008. Everything's tanked. I went and took my license full time, and I started with a little Keller Williams franchise in Harlingen, Texas. And at the time, there were like 8 of us that had come out of different careers. We were all brand new. A couple of teachers were in there. We came from all walks of life, and all of us, it was very, very cool to start that way because there was no airs about it. And we all divided and conquered and said, okay, are you good with veterans? Because I don't know anything about them. Yeah, I've done a lot of those. Then we get the FHA buyer. And then someone said, what's a 203K? And so we're all like, okay, we can master this. And we became professionals at 203K FHA loans, because these houses that you'd have whole street blocks just vacated, foreclosed on. A little bit of a scary time in South Texas too. Just, I'd have to have a lot of police escorts going into houses because they'd steal the front door, and copper piping was pulled out, and HVAC units were getting pulled out. It was a very, very different time, but I can tell you from starting with that core group and us kind of not throwing any airs, we got to learn together, and we got to be stronger and better because of it. It was a great learning experience. And I ended up, before I left Texas, I ended up having 2 buyer's agents. I was just getting ready, starting up that team. I was focusing on listings at the time, had 2 buyer's agents. Things were great. And this is going in right around 2011. Everything's wonderful. A lot of the cartel fighting was down there. And so those were the things that we, as the kids start getting older, getting into school, and I'm not asking about education. I'm like, do you have a 24-hour guard? How many cameras do you have running? That was kind of creepy.
Yeah.
So my husband applied to try to get us back, and we just didn't think it was going to happen. And lo and behold, he gets the thing, hey, you can relocate back to Ohio. And I'm like, oh my God, I have to do this all over again. You gotta be kidding me. We did. So I was a little bit different though when I came back, because I was gone. So there was a earmark of time that we were in Texas for about 12 years. So a lot of those connections, even though I was here all my life.
I can hear you.
You can hear me? Okay.
Yep.
I can't see you. Oh, well, there I am. There you are. Okay. So I had this scope of time, 12 years that I was gone, and I ended up saying I'm going to go into, Dotloop had just come out. We were the beta test in Texas.
Yeah.
So I was very fluent in it. So I went on to the Keller Williams Consultants Dublin branch, and they hired me to be their Dotloop trainer. Terrible.
I should have known you back then, but
you guys were there.
I was so against Dotloop because I just wanted to do things the old school way. And like Ashley, who was our admin and is still our admin, is like, you guys have to start doing this. I'm like, nah, whatever. Like, I'll fax, whatever. Don't want to learn it. So I was there in 2011. I was at Consultants in 2011. Yep. So
I know you guys were.
Shame on me.
That place was huge. Well, here's the thing. Because you were probably computer literate, you didn't, and you were rebelling against it. The people that I had that came to my classes would bring laptops in. I mean, they still had rotary dial phones in the back. Like, they didn't have push button phones. No one had cell phone. They bring in, they're like, my kids made me bring this laptop. So can you, like, I would go through tutorials on how to turn it on. Have you checked your website? You don't have one. Okay. Well, so I was like, I'm going to pull my hair out. Like, I can't do this. So they offered me another job, and they said, we are looking for a team leader to open the Keller Williams Excel branch in Westerville. I said, I can't sell. Well, okay. Why not? Let's just diversify. Let's see what happens. Yeah. Loved it. I loved it. And there are still agents to this day that are still kicking my ass. But I love it because they're out there, and like, those are the people I love seeing them go. But I miss my buyers and sellers. I miss them terribly. And so I did that for about a year and a half. And I was actually headhunting someone from a larger team who happened to be a friend from high school, Watterson. And she said, Darcie, you're miserable. And I said, does it really show? She's like, oh yeah, all over your face, all over your face. She's like, why don't you come and meet our team leads and just see if you like her? And I fell in love with her. And that is what brought me to the Rains Group. And I was there with Ron and Sandy and the team for just about 8 years.
Yeah.
So I left Keller Williams, and I couldn't believe it. But
I'm curious. Did you lose me? I'm curious because
you're there.
Is sales a natural gift for you? I mean, did you know that like you had that gift, growing up, or did you just kind of learn it from just, being in the car business and just got really good at it?
So I've always had a passion for cars. Again, I go to the drivers of what's comfortable.
Yeah.
That was the thing with car sales. I'm like, listen, I'm a woman. I knew every coefficient of drag to every car. I'm a woman. I got tested on. I was the product knowledge queen because everyone tested me because they couldn't believe that this, tall, loud blonde might know what she's talking about. So so it was comfortable for me. And when you're comfortable with something and you're passionate about something, it's very easy to talk about.
Yeah.
And it's hard to shut me up. So that's where I knew. I didn't know I was good at that at the time. I just knew I loved being around cars. I loved everything about them. And so I aligned myself with products that were very heavily involved in training and product knowledge, because you can get through anything as long as you understand the vehicle and understand the process.
Yeah.
It kind of goes hand in hand with selling homes as well, which I didn't know that at the time, but I started figuring it out.
No. I mean, sales is sales, right? It's just a different product you're selling.
Absolutely.
Same concepts. The sales cycle may be a little bit different. Obviously, real estate's usually a little bit slower of a sales cycle than, someone buying a car, but sales is sales. So you join, the Reigns group. You're there for 8 years. Kind of walk me through kind of coming back into the Columbus market and, back into sales. Kind of what was it? Instant success at that point? Were you building up your sphere of influence as you're kind of like doing Keller Williams and team lead and things like that? Or can you walk me through those first couple of years of getting back into the sales side of things?
It's interesting. The path kind of, I was very nervous about it. So getting those opportunities to being a dot loop trader and getting the opportunity of being a team leader, those were amazing. As I go back now, those were amazing networking opportunities I had. I was able to establish with a lot of agents just that I exist.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how important that was, because now fast forward, going on, I guess we've been back since 2012, so 10 years selling. It was amazingly so important for me to have those relationships. I look at my buyers and sellers just as important as my co-oping agents. So I think there's a lot of times I do things. I have agents that call me to this day. Hey, listen, you're the only one that I'm not afraid to ask a dumb question, because I've asked a million dumb questions. I don't have any air on making someone feel bad about that. And
Sure.
I guess I convey that well, because I do get a lot of those calls that they don't feel comfortable asking someone else about. So, great.
Yeah.
So that part of it was there.
And then just getting back into the sales side of things. You just hit the ground running, or?
No, I didn't. And so doing the dot loop thing, going into being a team leader, I was doing no sales at all. And that's really what made that decision when I had an opportunity to go for that larger team.
Yeah.
So this is the only way I'm going to be able to, develop on a larger scale quickly. If not, it's going to take me double the time being an independent agent. So it was invaluable to me being with that large team, and just not only understanding the Ohio market, the Ohio real estate market, but also the sales side of it and how to set it up. And don't get me wrong, the rebellious part, I was the black sheep of the Reigns group. They hate when I say that, but I was. I did not believe in staging. And I'm like, that takes too much time. And painting something, come on, let's just get it on the market, sell it. That was going into it. And now it's hysterical. Now I'm so OCD about it. Now I'm like, I've got 3 barns filled with staging stuff. I bought the van now. Like, I mean, the last 2 days, I've been in 2 different houses for 6-8 hours a piece, making every inch detail perfection. And hopefully Sandy's proud of me.
It probably had some influence on you for sure. But,
most definitely.
But at that time in 2012, 2011, 2012, 2013, teams were a thing, but teams weren't the thing, right? That's when a lot, and I don't know, I can't speak before me, but just from people that I talked to, like, were there teams around in, 05, 06? Yes, there were teams around. But, in my opinion, it really seemed to take off, around that 2011, 2012, 2013, to where that was like the thing that you were going to be doing. If you were a successful solo agent, you were then building a team, right? And that's when the leads started taking off. I remember there's only a handful of opportunities with CRMs and companies that even offered internet leads.
Right.
And I know you guys at the time were doing it, I believe, right? You guys were rocking internet leads
very heavily.
Were you guys doing Tiger leads or Boomtown?
We did, and we did both. We did both.
Yeah. See, when I tell people
You know,
that we copy, Ryan and I, we just copy people. We went out and saw what the top teams were doing at the time, and we said, okay, it works for
right?
them, it works for us.
You know, and they were very gracious. They would meet with a lot of other people that would reach out to them, and they would share successes. And I
Yeah.
learned that as well. And I learned that kind of that concept of, you know, if an agent asks for help, the only way that we're going to keep the integrity of this business is working together. Number one, show me what you're doing new, what's cutting edge, and then take someone that has gone in and chopped it. If you have questions, you're only as strong as your weakest link. And I do not, there's a part of me, and I hate to say it, but yeah, I got that stigma of a used car salesman. And I hated that stigma. But for me, and it's just me, I tried to make that the best experience possible in my realm. And I kind of had a cult following, repetitive business because of that. It's also easy marketing because I was the only girl there. I look at that as real estate too. I think real estate is one of those things. Very easily could we get kind of that used car salesman title, or the attorney, the ambulance chaser. I know we teeter on that. So, you know, and that's why the call is as much as I can get to it, I'm on that call, because I think that together we protect our industry, because we're protecting our clients, and because we're learning, and we, you know, you don't want that bad rap.
Yeah.
I don't want it. I don't want to see our colleagues have that bad rap either.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I was just talking to Katie Antry, and I was just talking about that. A lot of people, agents, complain about our bar's too low, and we need to raise the standards and raise the bar. But yet, there's still people out there that don't want to help. Top producers that don't want to share. And help raise the industry levels. And at the end of the day, at least here in Columbus and Central Ohio, it's not like we live in some, small town out in the middle of nowhere where, there's maybe only 400 sales happening. We're not competing. I don't,
Right.
I can't even tell you if I've ever
We're really not
competed with you on any listing, or anyone from Sandy's team, back in the day. Right. Or whatever. So,
right.
But yeah, you're spot on. It's just,
There is plenty of it to go around.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Darcie, lead me up to current day. Kind of what happened. You joined the Reigns group. You were there for 8 years or so, and kind of lead me up to today.
Mm-hmm. So nothing bad happened. I still adore that team. They are great people, and it was just 8 years. This is the, I don't want to say the last leg of my career, but it became a matured point that, you start having ideas, and you're so confined from a team. And most people say, I mean, to be on one team for 8 years, that's a hell of a run. That's quite a run, but that tells you about the people and what that core came from. There was a point that I did this independently before, and I had to go out and I had to do it again. Yeah, whether I'm going to fall on my face or not, I'm not one of those people. And as you see, now the trend is to have these large teams. Okay, I'll go independent. I've got some partners. I might have a buyer's agent or two. I've got a virtual assistant. Actually, I have two. But I found out I'm a micromanager. Like, I'll make someone's life miserable. It's terrible. Like, now you're doing it wrong. So as long as I get like my functionality figured out, there's never a never. I do get agents from time to time who'll say, hey, can you mentor me? Or, would you ever start a team? And I'm just not comfortable doing that right now.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean tomorrow I won't. I have to enjoy this right now. And I truly am enjoying where I am right now, which is kind of crazy because I'm kind of the one-man band, but I don't take on more than I can handle. And I've got it positioned to where if things just went bonkers and crazy, but I am just at a steady flow. And I would say probably 95% of my business, let's say 80% of my business is repeat and referral. And the other 20% is lead gen.
Yeah.
And but that's where the partners come in. So if there's too much there, we're flipping and we're working we're working that partnership.
Yeah.
For sure. So yeah.
For sure. Yeah, you're right. 8 years at one team. I think the average is like 3 to 4, that an agent's going to be on a team.
Right.
And either, they're either going to outgrow you or, they're, not going to make it in the business. And that's just the reality of the business. But yeah, you don't see that too often. And that's awesome that one had the experience, right? Went to one of the top teams,
right,
in our market to learn from, and those opportunities. So
right.
I want to kind of, and to me personally, but I think VAs are kind of the next pivot a little bit and what's possible for our industry.
Yep.
I think early on, 2011, 12, 13, people tried virtual assistants, but it just wasn't there yet. And I think now, because of COVID, there's a lot of bad that happened because of COVID, but there was also a lot of good that happened because of COVID. And now, because of COVID, pretty much everyone became a virtual assistant from working from home, right? Everyone just got comfortable with that role and how to communicate, right? From, an employee to an employee relationship, to a boss to an employee, or whatever the case may be. And I think now there's a lot of people starting to lean on, especially in our industry, starting to lean on virtual assistants and, helping create those leverage points, to take things off your plate. So you can still remain kind of that one-man band, but still provide the client a high level of customer service in other areas, right? To where maybe you don't have to be as heavily involved in.
Absolutely. And that's been integral to my side of it, because there's so much of that minutia that's repetitive that, COVID let us perfect the dialogue book. So, as long as there is some computer literacy there, I can train you that part of the business in a couple of hours and have you pulling out the same stuff that I do. I mean, I've got my kids doing it sometimes too, because they're a great tax write-off too if I pay them a salary.
Pro tip.
Yes. Kids, so I want $12,000 a year
per each one.
Yes.
Darcie, I want to kind of go more towards the future now. I'm just curious, any big accomplishment that you're looking to do here in the next year? Any big goals? Did I lose you? I think I can hear you now.
There you go.
All right.
Sorry about that.
No, it's probably the weather.
Phone call.
Oh. Any big goals in the next 12 months?
I mean, I've got my numbers. That I want to hit. Those are my goals. I've got units and numbers, but I'll tell you what, I mean, where other people, I'm still dumbfounded to this day on how many people do not forget me. And I don't know sometimes if it's an insult or flattery. I mean, I guess it's flattery because it does help. But I've actually, because of that, it just happened organically, the repeat and referral business. I started just now starting to really focus in and working on that sphere, because if I'm not touching it, and that's what's keeping things going, if I actually paid more attention to it, what more can I see what's out there? So that's something that I've changed, and we're going to see if that makes the numbers any different, or the units different, or price point, I don't know. That is a focus thing that I've just implemented. So
yeah,
probably will take another year to get those stats in.
yeah.
But to say, I want to have 2 buyers agents, I want to have another listing, I'm going to make I can't do that. I'm going to wait until I hit to where I'm knocking on the glass ceiling and I'm like, oh my God, and I'm panicked and I'm on fire to be forced to do it. I don't want to just make that conscious decision.
Yeah.
Because when I start making conscious decisions, I screw it all up. That's the method in my madness.
Yeah.
I just let it happen. But I think with buyers and sellers alike, I think they know that I'm there for them, and that has just remained consistent as we went. So
I'm glad
can't
I'm
say
not the only.
I'm going to put a precise goal.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that needs to work on the staying in touch on a regular basis with my past clients.
Oh no, I've got to focus on it now. Yeah, that's the new one.
But I will say, I was listening to a podcast today by Ed Milet, and the guest on there was talking about how everyone has their uniqueness, right? And maybe that's your uniqueness is you have that ability to make such a impression on someone that your name stays with them, right? No matter what. And some people have that gift, good, bad, whatever it is.
I don't know if it is. I agree, but
in your case, it's good. I mean, they're coming back to you, right? There's something there that you made that impression on.
Exactly.
Darcie, 5-year goal. I know you're not putting anything on it, but it doesn't have to be business. It could be personal. It could be whatever. What's something that you really want to obtain?
But at that point, so if you go 6 years, 6 years is the marker, and I'll tell you why. Because so I've got that first child I told you about. She starts college, starts Miami here in like 12 days.
Jeez.
So in by then, and then oh my God, and then I have a junior in high school that's starting, my son. So by then, both of them will be out of college in 6 years, or hopefully both be out of college in 6 years. So that's really the marking point. I have to work to get them through. And then it's like, okay, what do I do? So now it's all in conversation right now. Do we buy a couple 100 acres and go be farmers and live off the land, get off the grid? That's been one theory. Another one has been, okay, well, let's go to a golf club community in Florida, and I can drive around in my golf cart and sell houses and sell retirement homes. I'd probably dig that. I don't know. Either one is the one. So where my focus is, will I be in Ohio? I don't know. That remains to be seen. I'm kind of a gypsy, John, I think.
Yeah, I can tell.
Just kind of go where the wind blows.
Hey, you just go wherever it takes you. Darcie's going. It doesn't matter.
I am to the hammer. I am focused on my business. I'm focused on growing my business and keeping it sustained for a good 6 years. Whether or not we stay or I pick up and I take it on the road, I don't know. Who knows?
No, I think that's awesome. That I'm the same way. Like, one of the things that I am trying to figure out the best way possible is to have complete freedom and flexibility to travel. And obviously with
camping.
Yes. And with Anna's career, it's a little bit more difficult, but if I can get her, to where she doesn't have to work or doesn't want to work or whatever, then, I'm just like you. I can go out here. I can go down here. It doesn't matter. So I love that, that's on your to-do list into the future. But Darcie, I want to be respectful of your time. I know we're getting up against it. So I always like to ask this question to every single guest to end. And that is, if you could give our audience one piece of advice that you wish you had maybe starting out, or that you think is very impactful. Maybe you got this advice that someone else should hear, what would that be?
Two things. Have a nest egg, whether you're on a team, whether you're independent, have a nest egg of funds to pay your bills, your essential bills. If you're going to get in and go, feet first, have 6 to 8 months of reserves build up. And also expect there's going to be, dependent on what you're doing, there is going to be upfront things that you're going to pay for. It's going to be more expensive that first year than any other year that you're starting a career. Any type of senior agent that is willing to share their advice and their expertise on what they've done, talk to them, buy them lunch, buy them a cup of coffee, but pick their brain and get as much knowledge as you can from them. And don't focus so much, and don't beat yourself up on if you didn't hit a target number or you didn't hit target units. Don't carry that into the next one. I've seen a lot of people focus on that type of stuff, and then their confidence level, and they don't think they're good enough. And that's why it's very hard. I track it because of expenses and advertising, but I don't focus on them like I'm not successful because my numbers are down, or I'm not successful because my units. If I don't focus on that stuff and I just do my job and enjoy what I'm doing and who I'm helping at the time, I don't have to set an alarm, and I have great confidence, and that does radiate off of others that you're around. It really does. So if you enjoy it, because I see a lot of people right now, it's tense with a market shift, and it not it's going lower than in some cases higher. There's a lot of people that are getting that type of advice and jumping before they're giving it a shot or a chance.
Yeah.
I got into the lowest point, 2008. Everyone was like gone. Well, let's go try real estate. It's shelter. It's basic housing. People need shelter. If it's a basic need, you're going to sell it.
Yeah. No, I love it. Darcie, thanks so much for coming on. I had a blast.
Thanks for having me,
thanks
John.
for
It was great.
sharing your story with me. If I can ever do anything for you, let me know. I appreciate you just coming on and spending time with me.
Absolutely.
And chatting.
Likewise, my friend.
For those that are watching, Darcie's phone number is at the bottom of the screen. If you are a real estate agent and you want to pick her brain, please reach out to her. She is amazing, and she will definitely help you and take care of you. If you're someone that's looking to buy or sell, here in Central Ohio, and you're related to Darcie and you want to use her, please give her a call. But Darcie, for those that are listening in, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Best place is my cell phone, area code 614-961-7253. Thank you, John.
Awesome. Darcie, thanks so much. Had a blast, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Take care.
See ya.